Let me go ahead and cue this up. All right, let's go ahead and cue this up. This story is absolutely crazy, and it further solidified why I think Wells Fargo suck ass. And I don't even know how this fucking happened.
A Tempe Wells Fargo employee died at her desk. And 12 News is now confirming that it may have taken as many as 4 days for anyone in the office to notice.
Did y'all hear that shit? hey, condolences to that person's family. But how does it take 4 days to find an employee who died at her desk? Like, I don't know. Like, I can't even fathom how that would be possible if they had an office, their office door closed. After 1 or 2 days, I'm sure people probably gonna look for you. You didn't think to like just go and see if this person is in the office or see if there was any clues to their whereabouts. Then you open the door. I mean, this is actually even worse than the previous story because they're in the fucking building. You got coworkers. Nobody come looking for you. I don't know. Like, I wish I had. I don't know. And I haven't watched this full video. I heard about it. I haven't watched the full video, but it's actually kind of ridiculous. Let's go ahead and jump back in and get through the video.
Now confirming that it may have taken as many as 4 days for anyone in the office to notice. Good evening, and thanks so much for joining us for 12 News at 10. I'm Kariba Devine.
I'm Mark Curtis. It's a story we first reported yesterday. Tonight, Tempe police are confirming the timeline of when the woman clocked in to when her colleagues found the body. 12 News journalist Gabriela Becerra is in the studio with new details tonight. Gabby, 4 days. I mean, this poor woman went 4 days undiscovered. It's hard to believe.
And that's a question many employees are asking themselves tonight. I spoke with an employee who said that she shared her perspective on the workplace environment, and they say it's a big building, but most people don't work there on a daily basis. A Wells Fargo employee went to work the morning of Friday, August 16th and never went home. Tempe police tell 12 News 60-year-old Denise Prudhomme scanned into work at 7 o'clock in the morning. 4 days later, police responded to the office building near Washington Street and Priest Drive for reports of a subject down. Prudhomme was declared dead. The Tempe Police Criminal Investigation Bureau is investigating, but do not suspect foul play. A Wells Fargo employee exclusively spoke with 12 News, but asked not to be recorded or identified out of fear for their job. They say a colleague found Prudhomme dead at her desk in a cubicle while walking around the building on Tuesday, August 20th. Prudhomme's cubicle was reportedly on the 3rd floor and away from the main aisle. This employee says several people had smelled a foul odor, but passed it off as faulty plumbing. They say while most Wells Fargo employees at this Tempe location work remote, the building has 24/7 security, and someone should have found Prudhomme sooner. The incident left several employees feeling scared and uneasy. This employee wants to see new safety protocols in place, telling me, quote, it's negligence in some part. A different worker also spoke with 12 News anonymously.
It was just uncomfortable.
Again, calling on the company to do more.
Body was there about 4 days before anybody found it, before anybody walked up to her and just to say hi, make sure she's okay. She was just laying on her desk.
A Wells Fargo spokesperson previously sent 12 News a statement saying, in part, we are deeply saddened by the tragic loss of our colleague at our Tempe office, adding counselors through our employee assistance consulting service are available to support employees. An employee tells me their direct management offered those services, addressed the incident, and told workers the building was thoroughly cleaned.
All right, for me, that's actually fucking crazy. Like that, I mean, hey, it's terrible that this happened. It's terrible that this happened. Did they lock in the bank over the weekend? That was a good assumption. But even if, I don't know. Like, I can understand Friday if she was there, because I'm gonna assume if she passed, it was probably Friday afternoon after people had already left. There's no way. I mean, I don't know what your job is, but I can't sit in my job. I can't sit in my office for more than I maybe could get a good hour in every now and then before it's a call, before someone needs something or it's a meeting or something. So I don't know what her job title was, but I'm assuming the only way I can see this happen is she probably expired late Friday afternoon, maybe 3 o'clock. People leave early. So I get Friday, I get Saturday, I get Sunday. But come Monday, nobody was looking for her at all. It took them until Tuesday to find her after a smell that people even didn't think was a thing. They was like, oh, it's just the plumbing in this building. That's a crazy ass story to me. The stench didn't give them a clue. I actually Googled like how long does it take for decomposition to start, and the magic number was around 4 days. Yeah, her dog cat doesn't know how to use a phone. It's absolutely terrible. They said they had security in the building, but and the other thing too is like she was in a cubicle, yo. Like maybe if she was in the office, because some people go in their office and close their door, and you just hear from them on Teams or whatever little chat feature they use in the office. But she had a cubicle, so you think people would walk by at some point in time. I worked at a bank and they had cameras everywhere. Yeah, I don't know. Like I can't tell if that was it. I'm assuming that it probably wasn't like how some banks they'll have an actual banking institution, but then they'll have like a corporate headquarters. I don't know. The story don't make fucking sense. Like I could get Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, but Monday shouldn't have went past without nobody. Yeah, that's true. I didn't even think about that. The fact that you can miss a whole day and nobody comes looking for you or wonder where you at, goes to your cubicle to check on you. That's a actually insane story that I was like, I just can't understand how that happened. You wonder why your loan didn't go through. Yeah, yeah. You wonder why your loan didn't go through. Yeah, man. You wonder why your loan didn't go through. You probably waiting for like that loan to get that mortgage or get that house, and then it's just like that. That's hey, isn't that hey? Condolences to her family. Is a big time systematic failure on the part of Wells Fargo, which further goes to my reasoning as why Wells Fargo suck. But let's go ahead, cue up this video so we can see what's going on with Wells Fargo in this I don't know, kind of interesting lawsuit.
Wells Fargo is accused of interviewing Black and female candidates for positions that were already filled in an effort to satisfy a diversity policy.
Joe Bruno, a former executive in the wealth management division, told the New York Times employees were instructed to interview, quote, diverse candidates after the recipient of the job had already been identified.
He is one of 7 current and former Wells Fargo employees who say they were instructed by their direct supervisor or HR to conduct the fake interviews. 5 others say they were aware of the practice or helped arrange it. A spokesperson for Wells Fargo tells CBS they cannot corroborate the claims. In 2020, the bank's CEO, Charles Scharf, made headlines after he claimed the bank had trouble reaching diversity goals because there were not enough qualified minority candidates. The company also paid nearly $8 million to settle a claim by the Department of Labor that it had discriminated against more than 30,000 Black job applicants. In 2017, the banking giant settled a class action lawsuit with 320 of its Black financial advisors.
Can y'all see why I generally don't like Wells Fargo? Wells Fargo always on some bullshit. Like the only time banking with Wells Fargo make any sense is if you got like over $100,000 in there and you have an official banker and they elevate you to a certain level. But generally, like Wells Fargo is always on some BS. Every lawsuit they settle is always bad. It's always something racist. Like I'm sure a lot of financial institutions have some racist tendencies, but Wells Fargo, they got, in my personal opinion, I feel like I see them on the litigation settlement block for nonsense the most. The next Wells Fargo story after this is even more ridiculous, but probably a little bit more entertaining.
Who sued the company for racial discrimination. The employees claimed they were corralled into poor neighborhoods and kept away from opportunities to advance. Wells Fargo paid nearly $36 million.
All right, joining us now to get into all of this is William M. Rogers III. William is the vice president and director of the Institute for Economic Equity at the Federal Reserve Bank.
All right, we're not going to dive into everything. We got the gist of what's going on at Wells Fargo, and I'll tell you, this is actually not an uncommon practice. Uh, where I went to law school at, it was like a little small, historically black law school, nestled right in between two ginormous, like top tier schools. And so I remember after your first year, you bust your ass to make all of these good grades. Then they have all the big time law firms make their rounds to do interviews for summer candidates. And I mean, I bust my ass. I had some good grades. I'm showing up every day in my suit. And I mean, interview after interview after interview. Now, I ended up getting a really good job, but it wasn't like, no, I was trying to get one of them jobs at the big law. So as an intern, I could be making something like $2,500 a week, right? But of course, I didn't get one. But then it kind of hit me afterwards. I ended up clerking for like a federal judge my first summer, but it hit me afterwards. I was like, you know what? I feel like a lot of these law firms are just stopping here because it's in between the other two law schools that they really want to go to. So the next year, when I had all these interviews, I just tried to entertain myself. I do that often. If it's something that I know, like, I'm not really too excited about, if it, I'm not going to be upset. If anything, I'm going to make them uncomfortable. So I put on my black suit, I put on my kente cloth tie, and I went in that interview and I got real Afrocentric. I was like, hey, how many minorities do you plan on hiring? Oh, yeah. But it's actually common. A lot of agencies will conduct interviews, or they'll hire interns, onboard interns that are minorities, so they can have minority numbers to qualify or meet whatever their diversity quota is, and they only had to give up a temporary position or a summer position as opposed to a full-time position. I just think I don't know. I think Wells Fargo is just be on some bullshit. So generally, I'm not a fan. If I see any complaint, even though a complaint is just the allegation, it has to be proven in court. But I'm telling you, if I see any complaint where Wells Fargo is uh, discriminating and not providing the same loans for qualified minorities versus, like, I'm generally going to believe it because I've just seen historically Wells Fargo has a terrible track record. And I'm going to just keep it a buck. Like, honestly, do I have a bank? I honestly don't even think I have a bank where I could actually go inside. Like, all of my banks are like online. Like, I haven't been in a bank since like 2016 probably, or something, when I needed like cash to buy a used motorcycle. But we're gonna stay on Wells Fargo. Let me just shout out folks in the comments. Enrique, I don't understand why people do business with those banks. Yeah, any banks that's like charging you a fee for an account if you got less than $1,000 in there, they just got some dumbass archaic rules. But I also think that they just do bad business. You know what I mean? So I'm definitely not a fan. Mm. OCI is a show. Yeah, yeah. On campus interviews, they just go through it. They just go through OCI's on campus interviews, and they just go through the process. They might pick one person, like, unless if you're like a Harvard person, y'all might get a couple people. But if you go like to like a smaller, lower tier law school like me, you might have one person to do. So it's kind of interesting, but you know what we saw there, I think, is common.